Which is the best Nifty ETF to invest in? Does it even matter if I invest in an ETF by one fund house or other? How mutual funds and ETFs differ? And more importantly, which one is the better choice, a mutual fund or a Nifty ETF? Do you want to know the answer to each of these questions? Keep watching. How ETF and mutual fund differ. So ETF is an exchange traded fund, and mutual fund is something where you have a basket of investment by a fund manager and you can invest in that basket. ETF is to bring the advantages of mutual funds into stock market and allow you to trade on a real time basis. So in mutual funds you can't trade, so you can't get in and out of a mutual fund the same day. You purchase the units and then the units gets allocated to you, then you can do a redemption request. Moreover, the NAV is updated on a daily basis and it's not a live update based on the activity of the fund that is taking place. ETF on the other hand is more like a benchmark to an index and it trades in the exchange like any other stock. So it takes the advantages of stock as well as the mutual fund. The advantage of stock is you have live updates of prices and the stability of the mutual fund and bundled together to provide an option for investor. So which one is a better choice, mutual fund or an ETF? Generally speaking, ETF is much better choice because it has a very low expense ratio. However, if you are able to invest in a better performing mutual fund, you will always outperform the ETF. But 60 to 70% of the mutual funds are not able to outperform the index. So if you are invested in those 60 to 70% of the funds, you underperform the index. So it's better to invest in an ETF than to invest in a mutual fund. So once you invest in an ETF, you take out the option of outperformance and you perform according to the index. However, once you consider a mutual fund and you have a process where you can identify which mutual fund will perform better, mutual fund is always a better choice because you have an option of outperforming, and if you are taking that risk of outperformance, you may underperform as well. But with ETF, you are not taking that risk of outperformance, so you don't underperform and you perform as per the index. Does it matter if you invest in one ETF over another? The answer is yes. If you have chosen an ETF which has very low volume, then when you want to buy an ETF, it can so happen that there are not many sellers and so you have to buy at a very high price. Similarly, when you want to sell an ETF, if there are not too many buyers, you may have to reduce the price. So your bid and ask spread increases, you may underperform the return from an index. So it's always better to choose an ETF that has sufficient volume because you are actually trading or you are buying and selling in the broker's interface. There is no NAV that is declared by a fund house. So yes, it matters if you choose an ETF that is not traded highly on the exchanges. You can have issues buying or selling it. So now let's look at the best Nifty ETF to invest in. So we Google Nifty 50 ETFs and visit the NSE website. Over there we see that there are many ETFs listed. So we sort them based on value of volume. We see that Nifty B's, SBI ETF Nifty 50, ICICI Nifty, UTI Nifty, HDFC and Kotak Nifty. All this have significant volume. Now on some days you may see different volumes for different all of this. So as of today that I can see is the range is amount of value that has been traded is about 33 lakh. So these are good choice of Nifty. So now we go to Value Research Online to find out what is the expense ratio of each of them. So for Kotak Nifty 50 ETF, the expense ratio is 0.12%. It's slightly on the higher side. For HDFC Nifty 50 ETF, the expense ratio is 0.05%. For UTI Nifty 50 ETF, it is at 0.07%, a similar range of 0.05%. Typically typically an ETF fund has an expense ratio of 0.05 to 0.07%. So ICICI Prudential Nifty 50 ETF is also at the expense ratio of 0.05%. SBI Nifty 50 ETF is also at 0.07%, and Nippon India ETF Nifty 50 Bs is at 0.05%. And so my choice of ETF will always be Nifty Bs because it has a inline expense ratio and the traded volume is much higher. Do you prefer to invest in an ETF, especially Nifty ETF, or you want to take the risk of outperformance and prefer a mutual fund? Share them in comments below, and I'm sure it will be interesting to read your views.